With the market shifting, there's so many properties expiring and failing to sell. And you probably have noticed this in your market, that the number of expired, canceled, withdrawn listings that you're getting every single day is continuing to increase day after day. And the questions I keep getting from you guys here on the channel or from the podcast or from my Instagram is, dude, what should we be doing to convert more expired listings? You've taught us a lot about for sale by owners. Now that the market shifted, how do we handle expired listings? So what I have done is I've grabbed one of the agents that I'm coaching right now who is really doing a great job converting expired listings. And I interview him to get his best practices on some of the things that we're working on right now to help him dominate the expired listings in his market. So in this interview, I'm going to break down his daily strategy for going after expired listings, certainly his schedule, his scripts, his dialogues, systems, tactics, all the things you need to go out there after this interview and do the exact same in your market when it comes to expired listings. So if there is anything in this interview that you find value in or that you think makes sense and you feel at this point you may want to have a conversation about coaching, we'd be happy to have a conversation with you. So I'm going to put a link right beneath this video in the show notes. I'll also put a link in the comments beneath this video. Feel free to schedule some time. We can have a conversation about potentially having a coaching relationship, and then you can decide if now's the time or not. So let's jump in to the show. All right, welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got another coaching student in the reverse selling community, JP Smith. JP, welcome to the show, my friend. Appreciate you coming on with us today.
Thank you, Brandon. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So listen, you've got a cool, unique story, being that you moved from New York, like you were just saying off air, moved to Florida, been selling real estate in a new market for about 2 years. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was an agent for 10 years at the time in 2020. And when I saw that the, state government made it illegal to do outbound prospecting and cold call, I said, that is not a good sign. I don't want to work in a state and pay taxes in a state where they're going to prevent me from feeding my family. So I looked at my wife and I looked around, and it was just during the pandemic. And I said, my parents just got a place in Florida earlier that year. And I said, let's give it a try. Let's go look down south. And, we fell in love with the lifestyle. And it's been great ever since, living the dream. We had a 1-year-old at the time, and he is what I call my little honey badger. So the boy needs to be outdoors. So what better place than Florida?
I love it, man. That's great. And so when you moved to Florida, did you have a big network, a big sphere of influence that you could depend on, or were you pretty much starting over from scratch?
It was kind of a toss up. I had clients, but it didn't really, a lot of them weren't interested in coming down to Florida right away. And also I wasn't comfortable, pushing a product I didn't understand. So I don't want to come foolish. I'm sort of the person that if I have a product, I believe in it, then it's no problem for me to sell it. It comes very natural.
Yeah, I love it. So let's walk through what you're doing right now to build your business through direct outbound prospecting. And before we do that, my question that I often ask is, there's a difference in belief with people in our industry, as you know, JP. Some believe you don't have to do any prospecting, sit back, maybe post a little bit here or there in social media, and business is going to come to you. In your experience, has that been the case, or do you believe this business, in your experience, is in fact a direct outbound sales business?
Well, for sure, real estate can be done in many different ways. But if you want to take the skill of selling, right, which is what we do, we're salesmen. We service our clients, but the only way to reach those clients is by outbound prospecting, by picking up the telephone and making that uncomfortable call and potentially getting rejected. And whether or not it's real estate or selling copier machines, which is something I've done when I started my career back in my 20s, you have to pick up the phone and call. And that's the best way, the most efficient way. And the top producers that I knew throughout my career always picked up the phone. They were always on the phone calling people, calling new business. They weren't relying on, marketing. They weren't relying on other means of communicating. They were always going after the business, being proactive, and they were
Yeah,
always the happiest. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And you nailed it. Prospecting is simply the proactive activity of initiating conversation, which is the key thing, to be the one initiating conversation versus waiting for people to initiate conversations with you, which, just is very unlikely to ever occur. And a lot of agents will wait around a long time waiting for people to call that never seem to happen. So let's get into your business. First off, what lead sources are you prospecting right now?
I really enjoy doing canceled and expired listings. I find that being able to untie the mess that a previous agent may or may not have gotten into is very enjoyable for me. Being able to help out, because someone's coming from a damaged situation a lot of times.
That's right.
So I feel like my personality adds value to that. I can come in and nurture that response and come up with a plan to get their home actually sold.
Yeah. And I agree. I think a lot of people enjoy working that pillar of business because the prospect is in a great amount of pain. Mm-hmm. And in the same point, we know those people are probably the most motivated because they've already hired a real estate agent. They've already agreed to pay a commission. Yep. They've already agreed to showings, the sign in the front yard, the lockbox. They've already agreed to all of that. They just had a bad experience with another real estate agent. And so they're already in pain. And we know the greater the pain, the easier a sale is to be made. So so you're working canceled with expireds.
Correct.
I want to break down the schedule, and then we'll talk about the skill set and your approach and how you're communicating with them. All right.
Right.
So your schedule. Let's talk about specifically your prospecting morning routine. How many conversations are you having on a daily basis right now?
As of last week, I've been averaging 22 conversations, and now my goal is to get to at least 30, if not more.
Got it.
If I could do 100, I would, but it's just logistics is difficult.
Yeah. And typically if you speak with 20 people or 100 people a week on average, what typically does the result look like when it comes to lead generated or appointment set? What does that typically look like?
Qualified leads, I'm getting at least 2 qualified leads from 20 conversations, meaning I'm getting their email address. I'm getting the opportunity they know why I'm calling them. It's not like a mystery. I'm not like pretending to, have a buyer. It's like, are they open to going over a plan to get their home sold? They answer yes. I get their email. Sometimes they are like, I just prefer text message because they're old school. We get an older, gentleman, and they don't use email. So that's fine. I text them right away. If they respond, I click that as a lead. So.
Yeah, love it. And so you're seeing a 10% contact to lead generated conversion ratio, which is why you and I love outbound prospecting so much, because there's not an internet lead source that can even compete, because all those leads are converting at 1-2%. You're converting at 10%.
They're a joke. It makes me nauseous to think about how much money I spent on realtor.com leads prior to your course. And I was like, this is a nightmare. I mean, I was busy. I was running around, showing apartments, going over that. But it became very obvious to me why I didn't like doing that. And my wife is like, I didn't have a life. She's like, why do you want to do this business? You're like, I literally was I was at an event in Fort Lauderdale. I got a call from realtor.com. It was a $10 million lead. I'm like, jumped all over it. We dropped everything. I get in the car. My wife, she's like, she knows the check on the other end, but maybe not, and they just sort of like fell away, and it was a waste of time. And I've always been a listing, like in New York, I focused on getting listings primarily. I didn't really service buyers unless they were selling or investors and they had an exact criteria and I knew they were serious. And I realized when I got down here that it was just the nature of the market that buyers, it's just not the best way to go. It's not the efficient way. And you're out of control. You're at their beck and call.
That's
Do you want to
right.
be a slave, or you want to be, do you want to be a boss?
Yep. I love it. I love the way you put that. So you're having 20, 25, 30 conversations in the morning. And then what does the day typically look like?
So if I have appointments that day, then I'm on appointments. I'm pitching. I'm meeting with homeowners, and really just I'm not previewing anymore. I'm beyond that. I can usually get an idea if they need my help or not, and then I just go right for the pitch. I see the home, I evaluate it, I figure out if it makes sense for us to work together, and I'm just very honest with them. My two rules: call every day. Call every day that you can if I'm on vacation or something like that. Call every day, and if you meet with a client, just be honest with them. Just tell them the truth, even if it hurts and you may lose the business. Fine, so be it, because you're just going to save yourself pain in the long run.
Exactly right.
You're putting off the little pain now for a great deal of pain later.
Yeah, it's so true. And we talk about it all the time in our coaching calls, right? It's like,
yep.
Sellers want to be told the truth. And if you are not going to get the business, or you're going to get an unmotivated seller, when do you want to know? You want to know now. And so we get their permission to tell them the truth up front. So it's always better to deal with people that way.
It's like dating,
Yeah.
It's like dating. If you're dating someone and they're dating someone else, you want to know that going into it. Like, that's right. Who else are you working with?
Yeah, I love it. All right. So let's break down the skills for a second. You and I seem to see our profession as professional salespeople very similar. And we've had many conversations about the sales approach. Mm-hmm. On the phone specifically, JP, what is it that you find is working very well that maybe you've learned that helps you to either generate a lead or set an appointment?
So I'm not trying to make friends, right? I started off in this business trying to make friends with people, and I would, hey, let's go golfing. I want to hear your story, your sob story. There's a time and place for all that. But when I'm calling, I'm prospecting, I'm hunting. Can I help you or not? So I've simplified my script to essentially calling about this property. Is it available for sale or not? Yes or no? Okay, it's not. We sold it. Great. Check it off. Talk to you later. Or yeah, it's still available. Well, is it listed? No, it's not listed. Yeah. What kind of feedback were you getting from your previous agent? Well, you could tell within like 2 or 3 seconds whether or not they had a bad experience or not. Sure. I had one guy tell me this morning, $8 million property guy, he's selling for a good reason. And his broker, his agent, went on vacation to Europe the day before he listed it.
Wow.
Or the day after he listed it. And the guy's like, telling me this sob story. He's terribly upset. And he was just pouring his guts out to me. And I'm like, it sounds like you need someone who actually wants to sell your home and makes that a priority.
I love it.
And if I'm going to go on vacation, guess what? You're going to know well in advance.
Yeah.
You know well in advance.
So you're essentially just shooting people straight. The thing that I believe in, JP, is this. Our job on a prospecting conversation is to get the prospect to a decision, yes or no, without any type of bias towards yes. Meaning, if they tell us no, you and I can handle it. It's just fine. We'll go right to the next lead. No problem. No problem. Yeah. And we're not trying to beat around the bush. We're not trying to pretend like we've got some buyer. No, we are looking to help this person get this property on the market and get it sold, period. Right. And we're looking for sellers who had a bad experience with another agent who was not willing to tell them the truth. That did beat around the bush, because then it sets up perfectly for us to go and take that listing and get it sold. Would you agree?
Right. Yep. And the ones that actually need our help, because there's people who have terrible experiences. There's a lot of shitty realtors out there. There's a lot of great realtors out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great attorneys. There's a lot of terrible attorneys. It's all every profession. And, sometimes you get called, you're a vulture. You people, you call, I get 150 calls, that's fine. If I can't help you, if you don't want my help, I don't want to help you. That's okay.
That's right.
But there are people I know for a fact that need my help, and that's okay too. We're here. I'm here to add value to my community. End the story.
Yeah. Love it. So the appointments that you're setting, would you say most of them, and I know I've probably asked you this before in a coaching call, but for the audience, for their sake, are most of your appointments coming out of the first conversation or lead follow-up typically? Or would you say it's 50?
The best conversations are lead follow-up for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm evolving too. So I've gotten past the point where call reluctancy, I've defeated that. with, with some various tactics that you've helped us with in the community that we've worked with. It's a brain trust, right? So
Yep.
that's beyond me. And that now my focus is on the follow up, on, those second calls, which a lot of agents, obviously, they forget about. Because you get in the mode of chasing. The follow up is very important. So I would say, if you would ask me 2 weeks ago, I would say most of my appointments were off of first calls, and now it's become 50-50. It'll probably be more so because they're high. I'm looking for higher quality. I'm not doing the preview
Exactly.
appointment, so
Yep.
I'm not wasting time.
Yeah. I would say the exact same thing. In my experience and coaching an agent for a long time, most of their high quality appointments are going to come out of a lead follow-up activity, not a lead generation activity, because we're looking for the no on the first call. And
Mm-hmm.
it's only because we've looked for the no that we've asked for the appointment that we didn't get, that they became a lead in the first place. So that lead follow-up, the second and third conversation, was of so much focused value that the
Mm-hmm.
appointment was essentially, you come on over and list the house. And
Yeah.
so if an agent's going to set 10 appointments, 6 or 7 of them are going to come out of lead follow-up. A handful will come out of lead generation.
Yeah, I've actually gotten come list me text messages, calls,
For sure.
and I've actually had to turn them down because they were just, I couldn't help them. It was the opposite situation,
Yep.
which is a good problem, where
Yeah.
I'm able to say, I appreciate it, but I don't think that, given all the information that I've given you about the comp scenario, I just don't think your price is realistic. And, with all due respect, I don't think I can help you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
We part as friends, and that's fine.
And I love the approach, JP, because we can't help everybody, right?
No,
And we can't be all things to all people, because if we try, we end up being nothing to everyone, right? You can't be everything to everybody.
no, you can't. You can only have one wife. You can only have,
Yeah.
one profession. You perfect that, be the best at it, and conquer your goals.
Yeah, I love it. So give us one thing at the appointment. So you set the appointment, you go see a homeowner, maybe 1 or 2 tactical pieces of advice that the audience could use that you find very helpful or useful that helps you to win listings.
So if you're watching this podcast right now or listening to it, take away one piece of advice. Actually do the work when it comes to studying. Go do the whole course. Don't bother asking Brandon a question if you haven't seen the whole course, because you're wasting, your own time. You can just get an answer right there. It's a beautiful system created to perfect when you go on a listing appointment. And what I do is I just try to master one step every single appointment I go on. So I'm gamifying it, right? So, the last listing presentation I went over this, the second part, going over the CMAs, right? That was a part that kind of, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not analytical. So that part is sort of scary for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm always second guessing my, my numbers, and I just get nervous around that. But I just say, this is what the information provided. You make the decision whether it works for you or not. And having that net sheet available. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm perfecting that. And then I'm going to go to the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. And so I'm not going to worry about the whole thing and feel overwhelmed. You can't master everything at once.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. And I guess staying on advice, JP, for newer agents, or better yet, if you could go back and get licensed all over again and give yourself a piece of advice, right? What might that be that other new agents would benefit from?
You have to, get a coach. Get a coach that aligns with, with what your goals are. I was, put your ego aside. And ego is very important because it keeps you safe, but it can also be your biggest anchor. And if you just let go of that ego, right? You'll be able to access your muse, right? Kobe talks about the muse.
Yes.
Right. Being able to just let go and just I have these conversations. Sometimes I'm talking to people. I don't even understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, and they're like butter in my hand, and it just becomes second nature, So I would say find someone that looks like they know what they're doing, that is willing to, whether it be a coach or a colleague or someone in a different market, find a coach or a mentor that has a system that you can implement in your business and stick to that and make that like the most important thing in your life beside your family, and your health. Those 2 other things are always very, very important, but your business, that's how you feed yourself and your family. So find that mentor and follow the strategy to the T. Do not deviate. And then after maybe 6 months, a year, evaluate that and have an honest conversation whether it's working or not. But you have to focus. Otherwise, you're going to be all over the place.
Yeah, smart. Listen, dude, I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these fairly short. Appreciate you.
Likewise.
I really appreciate what you do for the community. You've become a leader in the community. People look up to you. You've got great energy, great passion. So thank you for that as well.
Shout out to my wolf pack.
There you go. I love it. JP, I appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. And thank you again for coming on the podcast.
All right. Take care, Brian.
Yep. Take care. Bye-bye.